You guys get the cute couch. Yes.
I like this couch.
I know. I never get to sit in that one. Okay, you guys, I want to start with some background. Let's really lay the stage for your entire journey. Tell me where you're from, where you got started, and then we'll go into some high school basketball.
Yeah, you probably can't tell anymore because my accent is gone, because we've lived in so many different places, but she'll tell you my accent used to be really strong, but I'm from Texas, Galveston County, Hitchcock, Lamarck area, and moved to Friendswood, Texas. So that's kind of about 30 minutes south of Houston.
Brilliant. And Jenny, where are you from?
I'm from Logan, Utah. he says I'm a country girl, but we have way more things in Logan, Utah than Hitchcock has like one store that sells clothes, groceries, gas, everything, and that's about it. So he's a little more country than I am.
That's home.
That's home. That's home. We love to see it. Okay, so Houston, one of the most diverse cities in the United States, and that's where you grew up. You started playing basketball in Houston. What kind of laid your foundation for success and for who you are and the values that you have in high school?
My family, my mom, my dad, they're the real leaders. My grandparents, the Clark family, the Price family. Hitchcock is the backbone. And I'll get this out the way really quick. My dad's parents had 21 kids. My dad's the third youngest of 21. My mom and her family live, probably a mile away from my dad's family. So both families grew up together. So my cousins on my mom's side, my cousins on my dad's side, we all grew up together. We all knew each other, and very tight community. So with that being said, my grandmother also, my dad's mom, turned her home into a foster home. So I have a lot of quote-unquote foster cousins, foster family that look like you, and all different backgrounds. So I grew up in a very unique situation, but it was a true blessing and a true lesson. And I was probably, more educated than most about loving someone that doesn't look like you or isn't from the same background as you.
Sure, sure. And Jenny, what did your family look like? What was your family size? How were you brought up?
There is 5 girls in my family, and I'm the youngest. And that's about it. He has a way more interesting
So
past than I do.
So Ronnie had more of a Utah-sized family, and
Yes.
you had 5. There are 5 of you.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay.
And when he says 21 kids in his dad's family, it's no twins, same mom and dad, 21 pregnancies, 21 kids. Just had to put that out there because
Let's give it up for the mom.
It blows my mind.
Okay.
So we had our own football games.
You guys had the whole team. You had 2 teams. Come on now. Okay, so from Houston, you played high school ball, right? And then you moved on to a D1 school in Louisiana, correct? Talk about that culture shock and what a change that was to go from Houston to Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana is different, and a lot of people may not know this, although I do have a friend in here now that knows where Nicholls State University is. It's in Thibodaux, Louisiana. And yeah, that was interesting. I mean, you're pulling up to campus and you're seeing, like, literally driving by plantations.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you look up Thibodaux, Louisiana, you can still see a lot of places like that you can visit and see. And so that was a first for me, for sure. But overall, met a lot of great people there, had a great experience, and played 1 year there and then transferred to Utah Valley.
I would imagine in Louisiana there were plenty of moments where you came across some naive comments or naive treatments.
Absolutely.
How did you handle that, and what did it teach you about different cultures and how to respond to different ideas, thought processes, and beliefs?
So, growing up, I was taught not to see color. And in the South, people are a little bit further behind as far as their mindset, the education of, the old generations of thought. I would say that my age group of kids in my neighborhood, we were probably the first generations of kids that were open-minded about one another. And we actually taught our parents and our grandparents a great lesson. By the way, we loved each other in Heritage Park. We were actually able to help further some of the older generation's mindsets. And it was a very beautiful thing. And there could be a documentary about that neighborhood. But anyway, in Louisiana, definitely people were a little bit further behind in their mindset. And I became numb to a lot of comments, a lot of situations, but I was taught to be that way. I also understood that my generation, there was a different role to play. The front runners and the front line soldiers are my great-grandparents, my grandparents, and my parents. And I knew that I had a shift that I was responsible for, and that was changing everyone's mindset that I ever came in contact that didn't look like me, that would make a comment towards me. And if I handled it a certain way, then I would make them feel validated about how they felt about me. If I treated them with love and kindness, I could potentially change that person's view of someone who looks like me and any other person that they come in contact after me.
Absolutely. I love that. And taking the opportunity to show them love versus hate, yes?
Absolutely.
So I would imagine during this time as well, your team was an incredible influence and an important factor in your life. Can you talk about how, as a team, you worked together, bonded together, and invested in each other, and how that helped you in your life?
Yeah, I mean, the presentation before talking about startups, I mean, that really translates to basketball in the locker room. We all have to buy into the same system. And, you know, the leader of that system can be a coach, can be a player, but we're a family. And we all know and love the fact that we're all trying to accomplish the same goal. We all want to win, we all want to succeed, but if we all have different avenues of how we want to do this, then it won't work. So finding that balance of being a competitor, finding that balance of being a person with personal goals, and figuring out a way to make that balance with the team goals, that's the challenge. Everyone's going to want to gain personal success, but you can't let that personal success get away from the team goal. So that's a unique challenge in startups, that's a unique challenge in business, which I've learned later in life, but it's all the same. It's all the same. And then once everyone buys into the same mission and the same goal, then you'll realize that your personal accomplishments will always come through.
I love that. A lot about teamwork in business. So thank you again to Dave and Parker for that incredible training on building and keeping great teams. Thank you, guys. Okay, so you went from Louisiana to Utah. So let's keep track. Orem, Utah.
Orem.
So
let's just get that straight. Thank you.
Let's keep track. You went from Houston, the most diverse city.
Absolutely.
To Louisiana. Plantation.
Orem.
To Orem, Utah. So yeah. Let's talk about that culture shock. What did that look like for you?
Well, we're in Provo right now. I mean,
you're still here, so.
Exactly. No, it was, wow. So at that time, there were about 30,000 students that went to Utah Valley. And I only know this because they had a multicultural center, and we got these numbers. Out of the 30,000 students, there were 55 African Americans. Out of the 55 African Americans, about 40 were athletes. Out of the 40, 6 of them lived in my apartment. So, and you know, don't quote me exactly on those numbers, but I'm not far off. So that was an extreme cultural shock, and yeah, I didn't really like it the first 2-3 weeks here. I was calling my mom, like, hey, I made a bad decision. You know, I'm trying to come home, and she was like, I told you not to go there. You know. Because my mom, you know, I'm her son, I'm her baby. She wanted me to stay close to home, so Utah is a little far away. So, all due respect, I understand what she was feeling. But then, you know, I learned really quick that the people here were extremely nice, had a real core value system that was aligned with my core values, the value of family, the value of faith, and the value of community. was aligned with mine. Coming from a strong family background, community background, and a strong faith. So I grew to love this place. And of course I met my wife, which she likes to take all the credit for everything, but
We'll let her take the credit. Go ahead and tell us how you guys met. Go ahead, yes, take all the credit on that.
Okay, I'll make it quick. But he was getting recruited by Coach Hunsaker down in Houston.
son's right there.
What's up, Zach? And he was showing him a media guide, and I had been at UVU UVSC at the time, the year before. And so I was in the media guide. I was a cheerleader there. And apparently he told a few of his friends that he was going to date me. He says that he went through the dance team, didn't like what he saw, so then he went to the cheerleaders. So apparently he told a couple of his best friends that I was gonna be his girlfriend. And I don't know what that says about me or what that says about him, but he saw me in the hall and he came up and asked me he asked one of the basketball players to introduce me. And then I gave him my number, and I didn't answer the phone. I had to play a little hard to get,
girl.
you know.
Yep, smart.
So I didn't answer the phone the first 2 times. Then he saw me again in the hall and said, "Listen, I'm not going to give you another chance. I normally don't do this." He says, "I normally don't do this with girls. I'm not going to play this game. So I'm giving you one more chance. I'll give you one more call. And if you don't answer it, I've got the hint, and I'm not going to do this anymore." So he says I answered it before it even rang, but...
True story.
And now we've been together for almost 18 years.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Oh, wait. I got one more thing. So just one little thing. So like 6 months after we had been dating, he told me the story about seeing me in the media guide, and I was like, that is such a cheesy line. I'm here. Like, that's not going to get me. I'm already here. And I called his friend, and he told me the exact same story. So legit.
It's true. It was pre-plans.
Yeah, we'll talk about mindset later, but
We will.
you absolutely, you visualize, you set your mind, and you work towards that goal.
And you have
right?
it 18 years later, I'll tell you what. Amazing.
Visualization.
Okay, so Utah, you got here, stayed here, obviously, met your wife, but you also had an incredible coach as well, yes? Tell me a little bit about your coach. What made him such an influential leader in your life?
Wow. Well, it's awkward because his son, like I said, is sitting over there. But there's never, there's no article that I've ever mentioned or talked or, anything. Coach Hunsaker is hands down the greatest coach I've ever had. And we golf. I live where I live because that's where he lives. We're good friends, and his core values, like I talked about earlier, were aligned with mine. But he also had a love and passion for the game of basketball that was greater than any individual that I'd ever met prior to him, and his knowledge of the game. But more than anything, I knew that he cared. He cared about us as men. And I'm not a bad judge of character, and I knew that his intentions were always good. And to this day, I've been right. And so yeah, he's great. Without getting emotional talking about that guy, he's great.
I love that. And I think it transfers really, really well into business as well as business leaders and how to build and maintain strong teams and investing into your people and seeing them not as employees but as people and investing in them as people as well, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving on from college, the NBA.
Yeah.
Tell us about that journey, the transition from college into the NBA, what it was like receiving that phone call, the work that went in order to receive that phone call. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that credit still goes back to my parents. My dad is my hero. My dad's my role model. And my mother's always been the backbone of my confidence. I was a very emotional kid when it came to the game of basketball, but my mom was always the one that encouraged me. She's a strong, strong woman, and, without them, there's no me. So the words of my mom, the words of my dad, to always continue to push. The first person that I wanted to share that moment with was my parents. So I'm grateful for them. I, just wanted to get that out there. But that road, so I didn't get drafted. And I forgot to say this, I didn't have a scholarship out of high school. I was classified as a walk-on at Nicholls State. I was 5'7" when I graduated high school, and so everyone doubted me when I said that I wanted to play NBA basketball. Every paper that I wrote about in school always ended with me being an NBA basketball player. So my mindset at a young age was always geared towards that. And there was nothing that anyone could tell me. There was no outside noise or no outside negativity that could ever enter my brain that would distract me from my goal. And so here we are. Didn't get drafted, another roadblock. And I was comfortable in that situation. That was just someone else telling me that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And I had, grateful enough to have an NBA team, Sacramento Kings, take a chance on me. They allowed me to play in the summer league. And I'm one of the few non-drafted NBA rookies in NBA history to sign a 2-year guaranteed contract.
Were you two married at that time?
No.
Dating at that time?
We were dating, got engaged. I didn't have any money, and the responsibility to take on a family. I know that Utah had, teammates that were married in college. I wasn't bold as they were. I wasn't as confident as they were. So I wanted to get established and before I had the responsibility of taking someone else.
Sure. So what was your perspective, Jenny, while dating him, during this whole entire process, watching him experience not getting drafted and then to go to the summer league, correct? Mm-hmm. What was your experience from your perspective with that?
Well, I didn't really understand. I mean, maybe I was naive. This wasn't my life at the time or anything. I just didn't really understand. He said he wanted to play in the NBA. I was like, sure, go ahead. Sounds good, So some people would laugh when I told them that or whatever, and I just said, he says that's what he wants to do. I'm going to support him. So then when it started getting a little bit more serious, where there was NBA scouts and stuff coming to the game, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, this might happen, So we did have a big draft party down in Houston, and then he didn't get drafted, which was kind of emotional in the moment when you're kind of told that something's going to happen and then it doesn't. So we went through that, and then I was with him in summer down in Las Vegas at Summer League, and his agent and him had a thing that said if I get a deal, then you owe me steak dinner, right? You were going to buy him steak dinner. Or he was going to, what was it? Sorry. If he gets a deal, then he'll buy him steak dinner. So he called and said, well, you owe me that steak dinner, and we just held each other and cried. So it was it was a huge blessing.
I love that. Okay, so you got to the NBA, and I would imagine there are so many emotions of excitement and just gratitude and pride and all emotions that have been earned, right? But at what point did you snap back out of it and be like, okay, there's more work to do?
Day one, really day one. I always knew I was going to be there. So the surprise element wasn't on my side. The surprise element was for everyone else. I mean, being kind of, bold, I'm serious. Like, I really always envision every dream, vision, everything I wrote down, never, not once, did it not involve me being an NBA player. So I was ready to work, and I was ready to still prove to myself, not anyone else, that I belonged. So it started day one.
How can you relate that to business as far as when businesses have successes, like a successful round of funding or a successful hire round? how can you relate that to business as far as just digging right back in and putting your head down?
Yeah, I mean, come on. The grind is the grind, and being content with any level of progress or success can always hold you back. Um, so I definitely can see so many relationships with that for young entrepreneurs, young business owners, startup companies. You have to know what your goal is, and any positives along the way, you embrace them for a short period of time, but then you set your standard higher to give you something else to shoot for. I always, with every accomplishment, had another one ready to go, another goal ready to go to keep me hungry, to keep me motivated, to keep me driven. Um, and it wasn't until the end of my career to where I literally had nothing else to shoot for that was in my control with the game of basketball to where I was ready to let go. I was done. There was nothing left for me to accomplish as a player that I actually had control over from my work ethic, my dedication, my faith in myself that I had any capability to do on my own. And that was hard, but also at the same time, I was able to then stop, sit back, look at my family, look at the other things that were important to me, and just be grateful.
I think you have a very powerful and unique mindset that is not necessarily extremely common. And I would like to quote you from a previous conversation that we had. You said, people are wonderful, people are powerful, and people can do amazing things. But I think a lot of people get held back or have expectations without putting in the work. So what would you say is the number one factor that holds people back?
Themselves. Themselves. And I know you've heard this. We all know this, but I'll repeat it. You have conversations with yourself more than anyone else. So if the conversations that you have with yourself are negative, then the outcome is going to be negative. If you can fix your mindset, if you can change the conversations that you have with yourself, if you can find a routine to make those daily conversations, the thousands and thousands of daily conversations that you have with yourself, if you can make it positive, if you can make them bold, and if you can make them, a part of your journey as far as thinking of the end, thinking of the progression that you're going to make, then you can't fail. And the beauty of that is, even if you don't reach the level or the goal that you were reaching for, the beauty of that journey, the beauty of that path, the beauty of that work, the beauty of that dedication, the beauty of that faith that you had in yourself, you can now take that and apply that to anything else that you attempt or go after the next chapter of your life. And I'm a firm believer of that. The lessons that you learn about yourself by putting power in yourself are lessons that no one else can give you. And that's just the way I believe.
I also personally believe that so much of where people fall short in recognizing the beauty within themselves and the power within themselves is comparison.
1,000.
So will you speak to the difference between comparison and awareness?
Yeah, so for instance, if we can talk about business, I can say basketball, well, I'll give you two examples. If I'm a basketball player and I'm comparing myself to LeBron James, I'm already failing. If I'm a businessman and I'm comparing myself to Bezos or Buffett, I'm already setting myself up for failure. I can be aware of what other people that are great or what other people are doing that are in the same field or same craft as me. I can be aware of them. I can be aware of their accomplishments. But if I start comparing myself to them, I'm already holding myself down. So that's what I was meaning when we were talking about that, is awareness is fine. But as soon as you start comparing yourself with anyone else, we call it keeping up with the Joneses, or whatever else you want to call it, that's all tied into comparison. So I really don't like to compare. I'm fine with being aware, and I think there's some good that comes from that. There's a lot of lessons that I learned from Darren Williams, who I competed against every day in practice. I was aware of his skill set. And I try to apply some of his things into my game. But if I compare myself with Darren Williams, then, man, I'm not going to feel very good about myself.
Before we open up for audience questions, I have
Yes.
to take advantage of the opportunity that we have here because I can't not use the platform.
Absolutely.
Right now, Black lives are top of conversation in the media. So as a Black man in Utah, what can we be doing better?
I've avoided this conversation for a lot of reasons. But listen to the presentation. The word burnout, about startup companies, how to keep their employees aligned with the mission without, not allowing them to be burned out, right? I think there's a lot of Black men and women who are exhausted, who are burned out. I feel like so the measure of a man. Sorry. The measure of a man. You can find out the measure of a man by how they handle power. And if you're a leader of a startup company, you have that power. How you handle that power towards your employees, they're going to view you a certain way. So as a Black individual, Black male, Black woman, the way people have embraced their power, we get to measure them because we've been victim of that power. My wife has witnessed things that I would never want her to witness. That involves me. I don't need to share those stories because I'm not doing it a good service. There's millions of stories out there from people who look like me. But there is an underlying law, an underlying code that we've had to understand and live by. When I get pulled over, I do roll down all my windows, open my sunroof, and turn on all my dome lights, put my hands on the steering wheel to give people confidence. When I walk in the mall with my family, when I go anywhere, I've always had to put on a little bit more of a front to make other people around me confident of me because of my color. People don't have to understand that, but if you look like me, you understand that. So that in itself, I'll give you another example. When me and my wife got married, people were asking us, well, aren't you concerned about your kids? And I'm like, the fact that you even asked me if I'm worried about my kids, you're letting me know that you know that there's an underlying issue. That's hard. And that's really, really tough to swallow. So yes, I am exhausted. Yes, people are exhausted. Yes, people are burned out because men in power have failed us. Human flaw is real. I don't believe that any system will ever be perfect because humans are in control of a system. There's always going to be a flawed system if humans are in control. I guess I would tell my brothers and sisters of all nationalities, awareness, mindset, taking blinders off, listening, are all positive things that we can do. I stay optimistic about the future. I stay optimistic about my kids being the ones that can change the world. I am grateful for my grandparents and my ancestors. I'm grateful for the brothers and sisters who don't look like me, who have supported me. I'm grateful for the people who are listening. And I think that the older generation is slowly disappearing. And I do believe that generations like ourselves, the new leaders, the new power, are very open-minded So I do believe that there will be a change. But I also understand that people are burned out. I also understand that people are sick and tired of screaming and singing the same song over and over. I do understand that we still have to put faith in our education system. Being the only black male inside of a classroom the first time slavery's taught, no one else in this room will understand what that feels like when everyone in the room looks at you and thinks that your mom and dad were slaves. But we have to put faith and trust in our teachers that they're going to teach that the right way. So even if anyone in here is not teaching color in their household, our education system is still teaching it. And we have to put trust in our teachers that they're not going to mislead our kids. Because right there, as a second grader in Texas, I all of a sudden realized that I am different as soon as slavery is taught. I also could be next to a student who was puffing his chest up, realizing that his ancestors used to treat my ancestors a certain way. But those are the things that we have no control over unless we are teaching inside of our homes. And I'm a man of faith. The greatest example is Christ. I love everyone. I love you all. I don't need to know you to know that I love you. And I just stay prayerful, stay optimistic that change is going to happen. And I think right now you're just listening to a lot of people who are exhausted. And I can go on and on. But I feel like there's enough voices. I feel like there's enough messages out there. And, you know, I love what I'm seeing. I really do.
Thank you. Okay, I would love to open it up for some audience questions. So if you have a question, just a reminder to raise your hand, and then one of our beautiful mic runners will run you a microphone so we can hear you online as well. And we will be taking online questions also. Dave.
Hey, would love to hear more about your family. Tell us about your kids.
I'll let her do the honors. I'll get quiet now.
We have 3 kids. We have a daughter, Brielle, who is 11, a boy, Trey, who's 9, and then a little guy, Javen, who's 6. So 3 kids, and we're done. Right? Yeah.
Any basketball players in those 3?
Our daughter's really athletic, and she's in cheerleading. She's really good tumbler. Then our next little dude, Trey, is really good at soccer and basketball. And then Javen just does it all. He beat Daddy last night in, sorry, I had to say it. He beat Daddy last night 2 times in like 2 full rounds in Mario Kart. And he was so mad when we went to bed. He didn't cheat.
He cheated. Okay.
Mario Kart's a hard game. Is it?
He says, I taught him everything I knew. Everything he does, it's because of me. I said, well, you taught him better than you can do then, obviously.
Well, and he used my guy.
Oh,
Just,
you shouldn't have taught him what guy you use, that's why.
he's a cheater.
Hey, Jenny, this question is for you. I'm sure it's hard being the wife of, an NBA superstar and everything. I guess it's 2-part. How did you handle some of that fame that was coming to Ronnie all the time as his wife? And then the part of that question is, how many games have you missed of his being on the sidelines?
Okay, so I didn't have a hard time with it because of the man that I am married to. He made everything easy in that aspect. There's a lot of times that he's gone and I'm at home and everything, but we had, I don't know if you'd call them rules, but these just underlining things that we always did. He would call me the second he landed on the airplane. He'd call me when he got to his hotel. He'd call me. Just communication, I think, was the biggest thing. And he he put my mind at ease with all of that. Just, I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of things that, a lot of time apart, you know, and he just made it easy on me because of the communication. And I mean, I would never want to go through that with anybody else. He made it really easy.
Can I say something? When we first started dating, people were concerned about our relationship because, you know, I would say it's because I was a black athlete. When the question would be like, are you to her, are you you know, a little bit worried about dating an athlete? Well, my response would be like, well, if I was a white athlete, would they ask you the same question? Because the perception of a black athlete in the media, you know, we saw the COVID-19 thing up there. We all know the power that the media has. We all know the influence that the media has. So already, because I play a certain game and I look a certain way, I've already been put in a box. I've been put in a category, an unfair category, to where my wife now has to hear questions from every one of her friends who know me, by the way, and they're concerned about our relationship immediately. So she had to, which the reason why we're sitting here today is she defended me from day one. And I knew that, you know, this is my partner for eternity. Like, this is my life partner. So the fact that she had my back with those tough situations, those tough questions, the fact that she's seen and heard a lot of different things from people, the fact that she's still sitting here with me, you know, that's just a credit to her. She's the rock of our family. I wouldn't have played not even close to the amount of years in the NBA if it wasn't for her. So she gets a lot of credit. She deserves a lot of credit. She's handled a lot. So.
And back to the other question about how many games that I've missed. I only missed, I think, 4 when I've been in the hospital having babies. That's it.
It's a good excuse.
I really never missed any home games. Away games I would miss, obviously, but home games I didn't miss any. Pregnant, 3 kids, 2 kids, everything, I was there.
And I could never start the game unless I saw her in the arena. And she would come in carrying the huge car seat with another one holding on to her pinky, and I'm like, all right, they're here, now I can play. And anytime she was late, I always had the security find out where my wife was. Because you think players don't notice things. We see everything, so I always knew where she was at all times.
And now he feels bad, so he comes and watches me play tennis. Like, okay.
Any questions? Nothing offends me. You're good.
I love hearing about your values, what your personal priorities are, and as a family. Curious what you're up to now, and what keeps you busy these days.
This, really. I've been so while I had a lot of free time, there's a lot of hotel, a lot of flights, a lot of downtime. And with that downtime, no disrespect to Utah Valley, I literally went to Utah Valley to play basketball. I hated school. Let's just get that out the way. But I also started studying generational wealth and started realizing that the only thing that I really did understand was real estate and numbers. Then I started learning about companies and startup companies and how that worked, venture capitalists. So I self-taught myself a lot through reading. Love to read, and literally would spend a lot of time on the planes reading, in my room reading about different areas that I could personally put my small amount of money that I earned from the NBA into things that would generate streams of income and potentially generate generational wealth for my kids, something that I could pass down. Because I noticed around me through some different readings that, a lot of these families gave their kids some head starts. So that was important to me. I wanted to be the first one to kind of set that trend in my family. So real estate is a passion. Started off investing in real estate as a passive investor, a little more active these days. I love land. Have a great mentor, brother of mine, who's taught me farmland, the farmland industry. And as of today, I guess we are investors in RevRoad. And but we do have a few other startups that we've been angels in. So
I think we have 2 more questions. Seth, do you want to go? And then we'll.
Just kind of a follow on that. What do you see your career looking like right at this point? What's the future hold for you? What role do you want to play in those businesses and in those future ventures? What interests you?
I'm very interested in the brain, right? Mindset. Only because it's so real and true to me. So yeah, I offer my help whenever anyone. I'm just here to serve.
Sorry, I'm going to say something. He's really, really humble, but he's really into motivational speaking. He has some things that are in the work to. We're in the process of doing that. Maybe this will be more of a, ongoing thing. And so he's really into helping companies and with mindset of leaders like CEOs and stuff like that, where he can help them just create and lead their businesses with a mindset and inner growth mentality. Does that? Yeah.
There you go.
And maybe write a book or something.
That could happen.
I support the book.
Hi, Ronnie. My name is Rod Blanchard. I'm with 7X. I'm really curious to know about this transition you made. You said that you felt like you had accomplished all your goals in the NBA. And what gave you the realization that you've reached the pinnacle there? And then how did you have the courage to step out of that world and pursue something else, based on the fact that when you were a little tiny kid, that's all you wanted to do was be an NBA player. That was really what you were focused on.
That's a great question. Maybe because I wasn't a LeBron James to where I knew that the next max contract was in my future, no matter what I did as a player. I had to start really early thinking about things outside of basketball. So I considered basketball. I never played I took less money 3 times in my career. So if basketball was about money, then I've always would have went for the bigger deals. Basketball was just a game that I really, really loved to play, really passionate about. But I also knew that it could end at any given time. So I looked at the financial side of basketball as only a head start financially, and knew that I had a lot of life to live and a family to support afterwards. So that's why I started really reading, leaning on mentors, leaning on people, job shadowing, little small internships here and there with groups like RevRoad and other groups in the state of Utah, and just asked a lot of questions and knew that, okay, I kind of, in a arrogant way, I feel like there's no degree out there, no level of degree that could really say what I am as a basketball brain. So I know that I could be a coach confidently. I know that I can succeed in the front office confidently. But basketball doesn't define who I am and as an individual, and it's not really aligned with my mission and goal moving forward. And because I saw what it took to accomplish a goal, like making it to the NBA, I know the steps, or I feel like I know the steps, or understand the process of what it is to accomplish the next goal on this side.
Brilliant. We have one last question that we ask all of our guests.
Uh-oh.
What is something fun that your success has allowed you to do?
Well, since COVID, it's watch movies and eat popcorn. No, my core value is my family. So being able to spend quality time with my kids and my wife, that's the biggest blessing of it all. And I'll ride this wave until everything, is said and done. Maybe I might have to go back and sell my soul back to the game of basketball, but I don't plan on it.
What about for you?
Just what he said, just being able to, there's a lot of people that have asked, how has it been during the quarantine and everything? And Ronnie said, I've been quarantined the past year and a half, 2 years. So we do just like spending time together, and just not having to go to a job every day is nice because we actually like being together. And traveling. I like traveling.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. I feel inspired and enlightened. So let's give it up one more time for Ronnie and Jenny.